Hello everyone, I am Dr. Azma, your lecturer for Issues in International Business. For today's lecture, we will continue our lecture on issues in international political economics. Generally, economists tend to neglect their political factors that shape international economic relations. International relations tend to focus on the relations between countries, state power relations, and it tends to neglect national economics. However, in this topic, we will combine politics and economics in one chapter. In this subject, we will learn about the core in the political economy is about international money and international finance. So we will learn about the core cause of financial crisis and the consequence of financial crisis. So why we study international political economy? The advantages of study political economy, we will learn about the interrelationship between politics and economics, between state and market, and we will explore how politics can be used to achieve economic goals, how economic instruments are used for political purpose, and politics bargaining over economic issues within and between states. Understanding politics economic will give us more advantages because of increasing importance in facilitating by new technology, a growing transaction in the trade, investment, lending among states, economic globalizations, a more broadening, a more thickening of economic ties among different actors such as states, international organizations, NGO, multinational corporations, and individuals. Expectation that governments are responsible for economic policy and outcome increasing transparent to international and groups more controversial and politicized. So let's take a look what is individual level. In individual level, economic liberalization focus on human are rational, seek way to maximize self-interest, while at the state level, economic liberalization focus on market to develop to produce, distribute, consume goods, market efficiency lead to improved welfare, and also state provide basic order, institutions facilitate free flow of the trade and exchange, market efficiency requires separation of the economy and politics, and a free market for the government interference. For international level, economic liberalization, a free flow of commerce, absence of state intervention allow for efficient allocation of resources by market. Increasing interdependence lead to greater economic development based on competitive advantage, international wealth maximizations, and multinational companies are engines of their growth. As I mentioned previously, the core in a political economy are international money or international finance. So we look into the international institution or World Bank. World Bank is the Bretton Woods institutions established in 1944 by IGO set up at the end of World War II. Under World Bank, they have World Bank, International Monetary Fund, General Agreement on the Tariff and Trade, GATT, to the World Trade Organization, WTO. World Bank, basically, they are focused on initially agreed toward Constitution of Europe following World War II, 1950s shift focus to developments. After that, provide loan money to the state for the economic development projects. In 1950 to 1960, World Bank focused on a large infrastructure project. After that, in 1970, World Bank focused on the development on health, education, and housing. In 1960, World Bank focused on sustainable development and also consistent advocate of economic liberalizations, structure adjustment, policy SAP, structure adjustment or privatizations, trade liberalization, foreign direct investment, government deregulation, and tax reforms. So now we take a look on how and the function of International Monetary Fund. Here we have initial aim of establishing exchange rate through the short-term loan to states with a balance of payment difficulties. IMF with the end of the gold standard shift to become a short-term and long-term lender is unlike the World Bank. And the two key issues under IMF are debt and transitions. Like World Bank, IMF also advocate structure administrated SAP. And then we move to General Agreement on Tariff and Trade GATT. Trade GAAT. In these institutions or body are concerned on this non-discriminant treat all members as it most favor. Trade liberalizations, execute use of tariffs, preferential access in developed market for South, national treatment of foreign enterprise. For World Trade Organizations, they are concerned on focus for trade negotiations, review, dispute settlement, and enforcement. World Trade Organization also criticized as too close allied with the Northern, degrading human welfare, environment, and labor standards. Okay, figure 1 now we move to about International Monetary Fund structure. International Monetary Fund Structure Adjustment Program. We have here profile, goal, and a structure adjustment profile. So we take a look for the profile first. IMF basically the profile of the country is need of the structure adjustment. They focus on large balance of payment deficit, a large external debt, overvalued currency, and a large public spending and physical deficit. The goal of IMF is actually to restructure and diversity productive base of the economic and then achieve balance of payment and physical equilibriums, and also create a basis for non-inflammatory growth. And then improve public sector efficiency. And the last goal of IMF is to stimulate growth potential of the private sector. For typical structure adjustment policy, IMF have 5 here. First, economic reforms. Second, trade liberalization reform. And third, government reform. And a private sector policy. So we go to economic reform first. And the economic reforms, IMF want to limit money and credit growth. They also want to force the devaluation of the currency, reform the financial sector, introduce revenue-generating measures, introduce user fees, introduce tax code reforms, eliminate subsidies, especially for folks, introduce compensatory employment programs, and create affordable service for the poor. Under trade liberalization reforms, IMF try to remove high tariff. They also want to rehabilitate, explore infrastructure, and then increase producers' price. For the government reforms, IMF want to cut a bloat government payroll and also try to eliminate redundant and inefficient agencies, and then create privatize public enterprise. And last, for the government reform is to reform public administration and institutions. For public sector policies, IMF focus on liberalize price control and end government monopolies. Now we move to talk about mercantilism, statism, or colonialism. In 15th and until 19th century, European states pursue economic wealth. They encourage export over export, industrial relation over agriculture, protect domestic production, or they call as protectionism. Events intervenes in the trade of promote employment. And what is the problem in formal capitalism? There are surplus balance of payment should to be critical to protect national interests. Mercantilism, modern versions, they emphasize role of state, subordinate of economic activity to state building, and economic policy should increase state power. Here we have example of a modern mercantilism regime such as Japan, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, and Thailand. They use state power to promote industry growth, single out industry for tax advantages, promote export over export, encourage education and technological innovation to become more competitive. Industrial outlook for radicalism maxims dependency world system. At one time, they are advocate planned domestic economies and rapid industrializations. Post-World War II, import substitutions, industrialization, strategy, and statistics developments are united in advocating restructuring of international political economy. United advocating restructuring of international policy economy, economic liberalization and activity of multinational put local direct companies in a state of permanent dependency, multinational exploit working class and developing countries, cooperate state decision maker, capitalization system and economic liberalization responsible for inequities within and between states. World Bank, IMF and WTO perpetuate dominate of the North and the global inequity, agents of independence, exploitation and imperialism. Contribution of international and economic power must be altered if disadvantaged position of developing countries is to be improved. For global inequities, major difference in economic development between North and South. A new international economic order in 1974 called by South for general economic change in terms of trade, establishment of the common fund, regulation of multinational companies, constructing of debt, increasing foreign aid, change in the structure of World Bank and in International Monetary Fund. The result in a minor gains preferred access to European markets, more favorable terms for the commodity price stabilization plan, some rescheduling of debts. Northern reforms refused to negotiate on major issues, common funds, multinational regulations, debt cancellations, institutional reforms. Okay, Millennial Development Goals. United Nations goal with regard to poverty reductions, better education, improved health, environment sustainability, and global partnerships. Asia and the Pacific appear on the track, however, Sub-Saharan Africa not on the track to meet goals. Here we are on a Human Development Index for the most top 10 of the country in the world. First, we have Norway, Ireland, Switzerland, followed with Hong Kong, Iceland, Germany, Sweden, Australia, Netherlands, and Denmark. These human development index are based on life expectancy at birth, expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling, and gross national income. For the detail, you can browse the link that I provide in this slide. And here now we check Human Development Index for Malaysia. Gender Inequality Index 0.2. Human Development Index for female we have 0.7 compared with the first country in the world, they are at 0.9. Human Development Index 0.8, and mandatory paid maternity leave we have 70 days. Okay, that's all for me for issues in a political economy. Thank you very much.